Hi, in this video I'm going to be talking about doing a two-part mold for a bowl where I'm going to have the exterior in one part of the mold with a pour spout right at the foot, and then after I've poured that side I will be flipping the whole mold over and pouring the second side, which the plaster will fill the interior of the bowl. I have set this this positive bowl in a square-ish slab of clay. It has some keyholes where I've carved out some shallow semicircles so that two sides of the mold will register with each other. And I now have, it's going to disappear because I'm now putting the cottles on it. And so in this particular version of this bowl mold project, the walls are a little bit high, so it's going to be a little bit hard for you guys to be able to see in, but and I'm using a variation on a C-clamp, but here's just kind of getting those parts on there, and getting the walls all put together and squeezing them pretty tight, because the tighter I squeeze them, the less likely there's going to be a gap where plaster can escape. And so I will, on this mold, I'm going to make sure I have a nice coil on the inside so that there's no place for the plaster to run out after I pour it. So that's what I'm doing right now so that you guys can see what I'm doing. So pushing clay into the corners. I will also run a bead of clay up this seam here so that we don't get any spills from there. And same thing on this corner over here. So pushing the clay into the corner, pulling a bead up this edge. And along this back side where the cottle walls meet the clay at the base, I want to seal that off to make sure there's no gaps, and yet it's still nice and clean. Now I should talk a little bit about this positive, because this is one where I threw a bowl, but then I bisque fired it. So so it was no longer non-porous because it had been fired. So I had to seal it with shellac. So it's bisque fired and then painted with this stuff, shellac. And that will seal it up so that it is now non-porous and I can pour plaster on it. I did also put a coat of the Murphy's oil soap on there so that there was not only is it sealed up, but there's also another layer of resist to keep the plaster from sticking to the positive. Just noticing I need to move this a little bit. Didn't have it set up exactly the way it should be. That looks a little better. So now I just need to put my last cottle along here and clamp it up. Well, this doesn't want to turn very well. It needs a little WD-40. And then one more. Along here. seal that up, and then again, of course, I need to make sure that I don't have any gaps with my, on the inside. You can't really see it now, but running that bead along these new corners and sealing up the bottom so that there's no gaps. And yeah, so this side's almost done, and one more side. I will pick up my computer so that you can see in here in a second to see what it looks like on the inside. Don't forget, like when I'm doing a one-part mold where the opening at the top of the bowl becomes the pour spout, I don't have to make a separate pour spout, but this is a two-part mold that doesn't have an open top, so I have to make a pour spout for it, and that's what you see on the very bottom of the foot. So here we go. This is what it looks like now, with some clay around the edges, the positive with the pour spout on the foot, and I'm pretty much ready now to pour it. I have my plaster sitting over here. I had agitated it earlier, crossing my fingers that it would be the right consistency to pour, and I'm really lucky, and it is the right consistency, so I'm good to go for pouring this. So now, just when I have a bowl full of plaster in the perfect state for pouring, it had the wake on the top, but it's going to be solidifying pretty soon. So I made 2 batches, so about, the equivalent of 160 cubic inches. And that seems to be about perfect for this mold right now. So I'm going to be using every last bit of it though, so I'm going to now lift up the big bucket and scoop in the rest. And then the last thing I like to do after I've poured my plaster is jiggle the mold just a little bit to make sure that if there's any big air bubbles, they can be released. All right.